One of the potential reasons why physicians and prescribers are reluctant to use beta-lactams is the fear that, in a patient with a penicillin allergy, is the fear that if I give a beta-lactam to a patient that has a known penicillin allergy and they have a reaction, then I am medically liable and that I could be sued, successfully sued, if there's a bad outcome in this patient. In the review of cases, in the review of the case literature, we found that there were 27 cases since 1959 looking at this exact scenario where the patient had a known penicillin allergy, received another beta-lactam, and had an adverse reaction to it. That's not a ton of cases when you think of all the way back to 1959. However, it's worth noting that in the past decade, from 2005 to 2015, the highest number of cases that fit this parameter were reported, and that was 7. So still not a ton in the grand scheme of things, but consistently what's been shown and the case precedents in this area is, even in the setting with a known penicillin allergy, receipt of prescribing and receipt of a beta-lactam and experience an adverse reaction, including and up to death, prescribers are not liable when it's a cephalosporin or a carbapenem. In fact, specific expert witnesses and judges have identified that there's no contraindication in the receipt of these. Now, there's been nothing said in case law that so far that talks about side chain similarities and dissimilarities. So it'll be interesting to see if that can become that plays a role in medical liability. But in terms of using a cephalosporin or carbapenem in patients that have a known penicillin allergy, that there's good legal precedence that says you are not going to be liable in a bad outcome. Now, using a penicillin in a patient that has a penicillin allergy, those cases about 50-50 go in favor of the defendant versus the provider. And so in that situation, it's most likely associated with just like pretty poor decision making, where you're using penicillin because you just forgot, or it slipped through the cracks of the medication ordering process. But even in those situations, if you have, if there was a known medical need, for instance, if the patient had neurosyphilis and you really needed to use penicillin, and the patient had an adverse reaction, as long as you document the idea that this was a medical need, there was a risk-benefit analysis that was performed, and we chose to give penicillin, I think in those situations, based on the precedents been published so far, that you would still be successful in court.